If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it out. We thought it was just a story, a campfire legend to scare people who wandered too far into the dark. But the Rake is real. It's out there, watching, waiting. And once it finds you, there's no escape. Every night it gets closer. I can feel it in the cold air, see it in the shifting shadows, hear it in the silence between my own breaths. This is only the beginning. And if you want to know what happens when the darkness finally catches up, subscribe to the Midnight Codex, follow the trail before it's too late. You can still hear it, can't you? After the unsettling discoveries from the cassette, an indescribable sense of dread began to seep into the air. The labored breathing, the strange scraping sounds, and the fleeting shadows lurking in every corner were no longer just figments of imagination. They were a warning. As the soldiers closed in on Silent Creek, the bizarre noises from the tape echoed in their minds, but this time, the truth was closing in, hiding in the dark. "Team, listen up," Sergeant Adams ordered, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "We've been given a directive. Operation Silent Creek is a go. Stay focused. Do not deviate from the plan." The words were sharp, cutting through the rising tension, but even his voice didn't mask the gravity of the mission. "Move out!" The team moved quickly, the sound of their boots crunching on the damp earth filling the air. The dilapidated house in the distance loomed larger with each step, its decaying form almost mocking them. They were too close to turn back now. Every flicker of their flashlight seemed to bring the darkness closer, the oppressive silence hanging like a threat in the air. Their mission had just begun, but what awaited them inside Silent Creek might be more than they could handle. The house, with its rotting walls and broken windows, seemed to draw them in, pulling them toward something darker, something waiting just beneath the surface. The footage starts with a grainy image. The camera flickers to life, capturing a night vision view of the dense underbrush ahead. The sound of the team's boots crunching through the dead leaves and twigs is the only thing breaking the eerie silence. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of earth and damp foliage, and yet there's a stillness that makes every step feel too loud. Sergeant Adams, the team leader, is at the front. His face, illuminated only by the faint green glow of his night vision goggles, is a mask of tension. His jaw is clenched, and his eyes dart from shadow to shadow as if expecting something to jump out from the darkness at any moment. He motions for the others to follow, his hand steady but his body tense, as if bracing for an impact he can't yet see. Behind him, Private Wells adjusts his helmet-mounted camera, the low hum of his breath filling the audio. Every exhale is jagged, every footstep heavier than the last. The camera captures the flickering light from their flashlights, casting long, twisted shadows that seem to stretch unnaturally against the trees. It illuminates the path ahead, a winding trail cutting through the thick underbrush toward the distant crumbling silhouette of the house. As the team presses forward, the once familiar sounds of the forest seem to fade. The rustling of leaves, the chirp of insects, the hoot of an owl, gone, swallowed by the oppressive silence of Silent Creek. The house ahead looms in the distance, its silhouette barely visible against the thick night. Broken windows gape like dark, empty eyes, and peeling paint clings desperately to the walls. It's been abandoned for years, but the damage from time and neglect is nothing compared to the sense of decay that hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. The very ground feels unstable, as if the earth itself is trying to swallow the house whole. The team's footsteps grow more deliberate, but there's an edge of caution now, a careful hesitation. As they near the edge of the yard, the full scope of the house comes into view. The roof sags almost as if in defeat, and the foundation seems to be buckling under the weight of time. Vines snake up the sides of the house, their twisted tendrils curling around the decaying structure, a dark reminder of nature's claim over what was once man-made. The faint stench of decay mingles with the dampness of the cold night air, making each breath feel like a warning. Sergeant Adams halts in his tracks. He raises a gloved hand, a signal for the others to stop. The camera picks up the subtle shift in the team's body language, the tense straightening of shoulders, the soft rustle of equipment as each soldier readies themselves for whatever comes next. The stillness is oppressive now, too heavy to ignore. Sergeant Adams lowers his voice to a whisper, though it's barely audible over the wind. This is it. Silent Creek. Let's move. No mistakes. His voice holds a steady edge, but it's clear to anyone paying attention that even he isn't entirely immune to the tension that seems to seep from the ground itself. The camera captures each soldier as they shuffle closer, their movements slow and measured. Every footstep seems to echo louder in the unnatural silence. Their eyes are constantly scanning, flicking from the dark shapes around them to the oppressive shadows of the house ahead. Every corner seems to hold a secret. Every space between the trees seems to hide something just out of sight. The air itself feels thick, the weight of it pressing down on them with every breath. It's too quiet, too still. And yet, it's in that stillness that they begin to feel the unease creeping up their spines, the nagging sensation that they are being watched, though no one can see who or what is doing the watching. It's a feeling that coils tightly in their stomachs, leaving a faint taste of dread on the back of their tongues. Private Wells's hand grips his rifle a little tighter, his camera shaking slightly as he adjusts the lens. The faint green glow of the night vision flickers across his face, making his features appear ghostly in the dim light. A bead of sweat drips down the side of his temple, not from the cold, but from the deep-rooted anxiety that's slowly but surely starting to claw at him. "Keep it together, Wells," mutters Corporal Stevens behind him. His voice is low, almost drowned out by the rustling of leaves in the wind. He's a veteran, tough and unshaken on the surface, but even he can't entirely mask the edge in his tone. The camera swings toward Stevens for a split second, capturing the briefest flash of doubt in his eyes before it's replaced by his usual calm. The team moves forward again, cautiously now, their every step echoing through the night as they approach the house's front door. There's something about the house that makes the air feel colder, heavier. Its very presence seems to warp the world around it, like a black hole pulling everything into its orbit. The door, half hanging off its hinges, swings slightly in the wind, groaning in protest as if it's waiting for them, waiting to let them in. But the team hesitates before crossing the threshold. Sergeant Adams holds up his hand again, motioning for them to stay back. He takes a careful step forward, eyes narrowing as he surveys the house. His hand slides down to the holster of his sidearm, a subtle but deliberate gesture. The house seems to stand still, daring them to enter, and yet something about it, the way it seems to watch them back, holds them at bay for just a moment longer. "I don't like this," mutters Private Wells, his voice barely a whisper. His camera shakes as he shifts, the faint flicker of green light casting shadows across his face. His eyes dart around, searching for any sign of movement, any indication that they are not alone. "Focus, Wells," Sergeant Adams replies, his voice tight, though there's a flicker of something deeper, something less confident, something not often seen in his eyes. He glances at the others, then back at the house, as if gauging the danger that lies ahead. "All right, let's move in." "Stay sharp," he orders. The camera captures the team's movements as they approach the house's entrance, weapons ready, their steps synchronized and deliberate. The door creaks open, revealing a dim, decaying interior. The smell of mildew and something fouler still hangs heavy in the air. The camera shakes again as they step inside. Every footstep reverberates in the silence, the eerie quiet now more oppressive than ever. The air inside is stale, the walls seeming to close in around them. The faint sound of something scraping echoes in the distance, far off at first, too far to be close, too far to be a threat, but they don't know that yet. The descent begins. The door slams behind them, and the faintest sound of something following echoes down the hallway. Something is waiting in the shadows, and they're not sure they'll ever make it back out. As the team reaches the front door, an unsettling noise begins to creep into the air. It starts faint, almost imperceptible, like a distant whisper that's just on the edge of their hearing. The camera picks it up, a repetitive, soft scraping sound, barely audible at first. It's like nails dragging across rough wood, a sound so quiet, yet so persistent that it seems to gnaw at the edges of their nerves. Sergeant Adams's eyes narrow as he signals to the others. His hand is steady, but his gaze is sharp, focused. Without a word, the team falls into formation, each soldier instinctively knowing what to do. They move forward, silent and deliberate, as if they've done this 1,000 times before. Adams steps to the front and carefully reaches for the door. The door creaks loudly as it swings open, the hinges protesting with a shrill groan that echoes in the stillness of the night. The first soldier, Private Reyes, enters, stepping cautiously into the darkness beyond. One by one, the rest follow, the soft scuff of their boots against the dusty floor barely breaking the eerie silence. The camera shakes slightly, the motion becoming more pronounced as they move through the dark hallway. The walls, covered in years of grime and rot, seem to close in around them, the air thick with the smell of decay and mildew. Faint whispers of movement echo in the distance, but nothing is visible. Nothing but the darkness that stretches endlessly ahead. But it's the silence that feels the most threatening, as if the house itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, a loud, sharp noise pierces the silence, a screeching sound, like claws scraping against metal. The team freezes, the noise so jarring that it cuts through the tension like a knife. Private Wells's camera jerks upward, capturing a brief flash of his face. His eyes widen in shock, his breath catching in his throat. "What the hell was that?" Wells mutters, his voice shaky, the fear creeping into his words. The camera pans to the right, following Adams's gaze as he surveys the dimly lit hallway. The sharp scrape echoes again, this time louder, closer, like something heavy dragging across the floor. The air grows colder, the temperature dropping with each passing second. The soldiers instinctively grip their rifles tighter, their fingers itching for action. Sergeant Adams' voice breaks the stillness. "Stay calm. Move forward." His tone is flat, controlled, but there's a barely noticeable tremor underneath, a flicker of uncertainty that doesn't go unnoticed by the team. He gestures for them to continue, and they do so, though the unease in their movements is palpable. Every step feels heavier than the last. Every breath seems to hang in the air longer, colder, as though the house itself is drawing the life from their lungs. The camera pans again, capturing a narrow staircase leading downward into the darkness. It's a winding descent, the steps old and worn, their edges jagged and uneven. The scraping sound grows louder, now unmistakable, something moving below, something large and heavy, dragging itself across the floor. Adams raises his hand, signaling for the team to stop. The camera catches his expression, his face set but his eyes betraying a flicker of something darker, something primal, the instinct to survive. "We're going down," he says, his voice low but firm. His words hang in, the air thick with tension. The team exchanges looks, their faces masked with unease, but no one speaks. They all know what has to be done. The camera follows them as they step forward, one by one, down the narrow staircase. The stairs creak under their weight, each step sounding louder than the last. The air grows colder still, the oppressive silence broken only by their ragged breaths and the scraping sound that now seems to echo off the very walls. The camera catches the faintest movement in the shadows, a blur of something shifting, too fast to catch with the naked eye. It's there, and then it's gone, swallowed by the darkness. The soldiers press on, each step measured, each footfall heavier, as if the darkness itself is pulling them deeper into its grasp. The scraping sound continues, louder, more urgent now. Whatever is down there is waiting, and it's moving closer. The camera shakes again as they reach the basement door, the tension mounting with every step. The sound of the scraping noise has stopped, but the silence in the air feels suffocating. It's as if the house itself is holding its breath, waiting for them to make the next move. The soldiers stand still, each of them aware that something is waiting for them on the other side of the door. A muffled thud echoes from below, reverberating through the walls like a distant heartbeat. The sound is deep, unsettling, and it sends a chill through every soldier. The walls feel like they're closing in on them. "Something's down there," Private Wells whispers, his voice barely audible. His grip tightens around his rifle, knuckles white as he tries to steady his breath. His heart beats fast, each thud louder than the last, as if he can feel the darkness itself pressing in. Sergeant Adams raises his hand, his gaze unwavering as he motions toward the basement door. "Prepare yourself," he says, his voice calm, though the flicker of anxiety is impossible to ignore. He knows what's coming. They all do. The camera pans to the basement door, its wood warped and cracked by years of neglect. Adams slowly reaches for the door's knob, turning it with a quiet, deliberate motion. The sound of the door creaking open echoes through the space, making every soldier's muscles tense in anticipation. The darkness beyond the threshold seems to absorb the dim light from their flashlights, swallowing it whole. They step inside, boots hitting the stairs one by one. The sound is deafening in the stillness, each step carrying the weight of something far worse waiting below. The air grows heavier as they descend, each soldier moving cautiously, weapons at the ready. The basement seems endless, a void of darkness and mystery. The sound of their boots reverberates off the stone walls, but there's no sign of life. No breathing, no whispers, just the cold, suffocating silence. And then, it happens. A gust of cold air rushes through the basement, slamming into them with an almost physical force. The camera shakes violently as it is jerked by an unseen hand, the lens blurring for a brief moment. The soldiers stagger slightly, caught off guard by the sudden shift in temperature. The air feels wrong, unnatural, like it's been trapped in the basement for years. Adams's face is caught on the camera for just a split second, his normally composed expression now pale, his eyes wide in shock. It's as though something unseen has crossed the room, something far worse than they could ever have imagined. His breath hitches as he refocuses, pushing forward with his team. Private Wells's breath comes quicker now. His chest rises and falls rapidly as he looks around, eyes darting into the darkness. "Did you see that?" he whispers, voice trembling. His camera jerks to follow his line of sight, but there's nothing there. Just shadows and cold, oppressive darkness. The camera spins wildly as a heavy, labored breath fills the air, a sound so deep and resonant that it shakes the soldiers to their core. It seems to come from every direction, as if the room itself is breathing. The noise is suffocating, closing in on them, each breath growing heavier, more frantic. The soldiers freeze, their eyes wide, searching frantically through the darkness, but there's nothing visible. No movement, just the oppressive silence and the crushing sense that they are being watched. And then, the shadow moves. A flash of white and gray darts across the far end of the basement, so fast that it's almost imperceptible. It's not a person. No human could move like that. The camera follows the motion, but it's gone before they can make sense of it. All that remains is the unsettling feeling that something is out there, lurking in the dark, waiting for them to make a mistake. "Move! Move!" Sergeant Adams yells, his voice urgent. His calm exterior cracks for a moment, and the panic is evident in his eyes. He turns sharply, motioning for the team to push forward, and the soldiers spring into action. The camera rattles and shakes violently as they rush down the stairs, weapons raised, eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. But there's nothing there, nothing but the oppressive darkness and the deafening silence. The camera captures the frantic breathing of the soldiers as they sweep through the basement, their flashlights cutting through the dark. But they find nothing. No trace of the creature, no sign of movement, just the sound of their own heartbeats, quick and erratic, filling the empty space. The tension is unbearable, the air thick with anticipation. The camera captures the soldiers, their guns held tight, their bodies poised for something that they can't see. But no is there. But still, nothing. The house remains silent. The cold, creeping presence that fills the room lingers, and the soldiers are left to wonder, what exactly are they hunting? The camera flickers as the soldiers race down the hallway, the sound of their boots pounding against the wooden floor echoing through the dark, empty house. The dim light from their flashlights cuts through the thick shadows, but it barely touches the corners, leaving the edges of the room veiled in complete blackness. The tension is unbearable, each step heavier than the last. And then, the thud comes. A loud, sickening bang from behind them. The soldiers freeze, eyes wide, hearts racing. The sound is unnervingly close, too close for comfort. They stand motionless for a moment, the silence suffocating. The air seems to grow heavier, the temperature dropping with each passing second. And then it happens. The scraping sound, the same horrible dragging noise they heard earlier, begins again. It's louder this time, closer. The sound of something massive moving in the darkness. It drags across the floor with an awful jagged rhythm, like claws on metal, scraping and scratching relentlessly. The soldiers turn in unison, their weapons raised, but they can't see anything, just the oppressive blackness that stretches infinitely in front of them. "Go! Go!" Sergeant Adams yells, his voice sharp and filled with panic. The command cuts through the tension, and the soldiers burst into motion. The camera jerks violently, capturing fleeting glimpses of movement as they race through the house. Their breath is ragged, quick, their adrenaline surging. The walls seem to close in on them, the house narrowing like a trap, the air thick with an overwhelming sense of danger. The faint sound of scraping follows them, getting closer with every step they take. A sudden crash shakes the ground beneath them. The camera spins as the team pushes forward, their rifles raised, scanning the corners. There's no time to check every shadow, but they can feel it. Something is closing in, moving silently in the darkness. Their steps quicken, breathing faster, the sound of their heartbeats reverberating in the camera's microphone. Then, it happens. A piercing screech, so close it feels like the sound is tearing at their eardrums. It comes from behind them, from the dark recesses of the hallway, and it's almost too much to bear. The soldiers stop in their tracks, eyes wide, looking over their shoulders. Their flashlights sweep over the room, but the light is insufficient, barely scratching the surface of the room's looming darkness. The camera tilts sharply to the left, catching something. A flash of white, a blur, races across the room. It's too fast, moving so quickly that it's barely a shadow, but the air vibrates with its presence. The camera whips around, capturing the soldiers' shocked faces, but then it slams into the wall. There's a sickening thud, and the camera falls to the floor, spinning wildly. For a moment, everything goes black. The camera tilts back up, catching only a glimpse of something horrifying. A twisted, grotesque form, its long limbs stretching unnaturally, darts across the room. It's too fast to identify fully, but its movements are jerky, unnatural. Something isn't right about its body. Its limbs seem far too long, the angle's wrong. It slithers, almost like it's part of the darkness itself, vanishing and reappearing in an instant. The camera picks up the sound of heavy breathing, grating, wheezing breaths that aren't coming from the soldiers anymore. There's something else in the room with them, watching them. The sound of the breathing fills the air, oppressive and maddening. It's low and guttural, coming from all directions. It surrounds them, suffocates them. The soldiers turn in every direction, their eyes frantic, searching for the source. But they can't see it. It's in the shadows, too quick to catch, too elusive to trap. And then, another movement, a blur, a flash of white and gray. It's close now, too close. Private Wells screams as something rushes by him, so fast he doesn't even have time to react. The camera catches a brief glimpse of the creature, the shape shifting in the darkness, but it's gone before anyone can aim their weapon. "God, what the hell is that?" Private Reyes yells, his voice high with terror. "Keep moving," Sergeant Adams commands, his voice hoarse but firm. "Do not stop!" The team races forward again, their weapons firing at anything they think might be the source of the noise, but nothing. There's no target to shoot, just the relentless darkness and the sound of their own ragged breathing. Every flicker of the flashlight seems to reveal nothing more than a fleeting shadow, a quick glimpse of something darting just out of sight. And then, another noise. A loud scraping right behind them. The camera spins around one more time, capturing the team as they run, their faces filled with terror. But all they see is blackness. The camera shakes violently with every footstep, every turn, every breath they take. The house, its walls closing in, seems to mock their fear, its silence only deepening the dread. Something is hunting them, something that isn't human, something far worse. The chase is just beginning. The camera drops suddenly. It tumbles to the floor with a deafening crash, its lens spinning wildly. For a few seconds, the footage is nothing but chaos, flashes of light and shadow darting across the screen as it whirls out of control. The sound of ragged, desperate breaths fills the air, and the camera shakes with every heartbeat, struggling to capture the unfolding panic. The soldiers are running now. They move with frantic urgency, their rifles gripped tight, faces twisted in terror. Their shadows flicker across the walls, stretching unnaturally, like they're being chased by something that doesn't belong in the light. The camera, now on the floor, catches fleeting glimpses of them as they rush past, their boots slamming against the ground, heavy and uneven in their haste. But it's clear. There's no time to think, no time to react. They're being hunted. "Sergeant, we can't!" Private Wells shouts, but his voice is drowned out by the sound of the creature's movements, scraping and dragging closer with every passing second. The air thickens, heavy with the tension that comes with knowing they're too close to safety. Sergeant Adams's voice cuts through the chaos. "Move, goddammit! Get to the exit!" His command is shaky, strained, and for the first time, fear is evident in his tone. But it's not enough to quiet the noise. The scraping sound grows louder, relentless, as though the creature is getting closer with every step, crawling, slithering, growing nearer. The camera jerks wildly as it tries to capture the soldiers, but it's hard to keep up. It captures only brief glimpses. Private Reyes's panicked face as he glances over his shoulder, eyes wide with fear. Private Wells, his hands trembling as he pulls ahead, his feet stumbling against the uneven floor. Sergeant Adams, his lips pressed tight, jaw clenched as he scans the hallway, desperate to find a way out. A sudden loud crash from the hallway behind them sends another jolt of terror through the group. The camera tilts up just in time to catch a flash of white, a blur of movement too fast to follow. It's there and gone in an instant, but the air vibrates with its presence. The sound of it scraping against the walls, dragging its unnatural limbs along the ground, fills the room. The camera spins around as the soldiers race forward, but the walls seem to close in around them. The darkness presses closer, suffocating them with every step they take. Their breaths come faster, heavier. They can feel it now. The creature is right behind them. "Go! Go!" Sergeant Adams screams, his voice raw with fear. His feet move faster, but even he knows they can't outrun whatever is coming for them. The camera picks up the soldiers' panicked footsteps, echoing through the house as they barrel down the hallway, the cold, oppressive air biting at their skin. They don't stop, not even for a second. The sound of their heavy breathing drowns out everything else, and their flashlights flicker wildly, casting erratic shadows that seem to grow and shrink with every step. Then, a piercing screech, sharp, metallic, and close, too close. The camera jerks to the left, capturing a quick flash of white, something enormous, moving too fast for the human eye to follow. It slams into the wall with a sickening thud, shaking the very foundation of the house. The sound of it is enough to make the soldiers freeze for a moment, eyes wide in sheer horror. The camera falls to the floor with another crash. It spins wildly, capturing only glimpses of the chaos, the twisted, grotesque shape of something moving just out of reach. The creature's long, contorted limbs stretch and twist unnaturally as it moves, too fast, too wrong. The scraping sound is deafening now, filling the air with its sickening rhythm, and the camera captures a fleeting image of its twisted form before it disappears into the shadows. For a split second, the camera captures nothing but the desperate breaths of the soldiers, the darkness closing in on them. They can feel it now. It's right behind them, and the sound of its breath, heavy, labored, almost as though it's savoring the chase, fills the room. And then, just like that, everything goes dark. The camera spins one last time, but the image fades. There's no more sound, no more movement, just the crushing blackness of the night. For a long moment, there's nothing. Then, the screen flickers and cuts to black, followed by the low, menacing growl of something unnatural. The video ends abruptly, the eerie silence hanging thick in the air, interrupted only by the unsettling hum of static. It starts softly, like a distant buzz, but slowly grows louder, filling the room with a hollow, artificial sound. The footage wavers for a moment, the screen flickering and jumping in an erratic display of fractured images, as though the camera itself is fighting to hold on to what little life remains. Then, As if everything that had come before had been a bad dream, the report is cut off. The screen plunges into darkness for a brief moment before a series of flickering black and white images appear. They are distorted, pixelated at the edges, their details impossible to read, only vaguely suggesting numbers, coordinates, timestamps, but nothing more. No names, no explanation, just a string of data that means nothing in the context of the chaos they've just witnessed. The numbers scramble across the screen, racing in all directions. For a moment, the footage seems to lose all sense of order. Time, location, the very essence of what's happened. They all blur together in a digital mess, as though the world itself is glitching out of existence. Then, another wave of static, this time louder, more oppressive. The noise overwhelms the viewer's senses, buzzing like 1,000 voices screaming in unison, distorted and lost in the void. And then, silence. It's deafening. The kind of silence that wraps around you like a blanket, suffocating you with its emptiness. The footage seems to pause for a moment, leaving only the blackness of the screen, as if to give you a chance to process what you've just seen, or to make you question if you saw anything at all. The next few seconds reveal the aftermath, but it's not what anyone expects. The camera lens, once sharp and clear, is now shattered. Cracks spiderweb across the glass, the fragments catching the dim light in unnatural angles. The image is distorted, the edges jagged, as though the very fabric of reality has been torn. The camera lens swings slowly, its view shifting erratically. It's now on the floor, unable to capture anything clearly. In the blurred chaos, a final fleeting image appears, a broken, dirty boot moving across the floor, stepping carefully over. The rubble of the shattered equipment. A shadow shifts across the screen, but it's too quick to catch. The camera wavers slightly, as though the person holding it is barely able to keep their balance. The heavy sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, fills the audio, each step echoing in the crushing silence. The footsteps are heavy, purposeful, as if the person walking is no longer concerned with stealth. They're walking toward something, or someone, toward the camera. The growl comes next. Low, guttural, unnatural. It sounds like an animal, but it's wrong. It's distorted, like the noise is being stretched across dimensions. The growl vibrates through the air, a deep sound that seems to rattle the very bones. It's primal, like the sound of something that was never meant to be heard, something that exists outside the rules of nature. The growl intensifies, growing louder with each passing second, as though whatever is out there is closing in, moving toward the source of the camera's shattered lens. The noise reverberates through the walls of the abandoned house, filling the space with a thick, suffocating dread. The sound is deafening, but it isn't just coming from one direction. It seems to come from all around them, closing in like a tightening noose. And then, the camera jerks sharply. There's a faint rustling noise, the sound of something brushing against the floor, something large, something that shouldn't be able to move so quietly. The growl lowers to a menacing rumble, almost vibrating through the floorboards. Whatever is coming is close now, so close that it seems impossible to escape. The screen is filled with nothing but static for a long moment, the growl still echoing in the background. The camera, now a broken piece of equipment, is struggling to stay on, the footage flickering intermittently. The growl continues, but the camera's image grows darker, more disjointed. The screen skips again, but there's a single frame before everything cuts to black. In that frame, you see it. A flash. A movement. A dark figure, standing just beyond the reach of the camera's failing lens. It's tall, far too tall for any human form. Its shape is blurred, twisting in unnatural ways, as if the camera itself can't make sense of its proportions. Its eyes, two glowing orbs, are locked onto the camera lens, reflecting the dim light as they stare into the shattered remains of the soldier's last stand. Then, silence. The growl fades, and everything goes black. For a moment, there's nothing. The finality of it is suffocating. The sound of static is all that remains. The footage is over, but the nightmare is not. The footage cuts off abruptly, leaving no trace of what happened next. Did the soldiers escape? Did they survive? The footage doesn't say. It just ends, like a door slammed shut, with the shadows lurking on the other side. Nothing but silence. And somewhere, in that silence, the creature waits.